the bedrock of a sustainable air transport system that is much needed in our continent resides in high levels of aviation safety and security. The South African Civil Aviation Authority arranged this 3-day engagement session in order to allow all role players the opportunity to reflect, to review, to learn, and encourage one another in improving aviation safety, security, and indeed growth. As we deliberate on various topics capsuled by the theme Propelling Development, Safety and Security in Aviation, I would like to emphasize that safety and security remains essential to aviation, no matter whether we are transporting people by means of manned or unmanned aircraft. Ladies and gentlemen, the implication of digitization is dawning on the world, and we are at the center of great technological breakthroughs that will be led by artificial intelligence. Program Director, I am of the view that the new technological developments have changed the playing fields, but not the game. In a new world of unmanned air taxis, taking passengers to automated airports, travelers will still need to be secured and safe on a route that won't be vulnerable to cybercrime or automation glitches. In other words, the game is still safety, security, and aviation growth. Michael Huerta from the FAA on 14 June 2016 said, and I quote, "Safety is the aviation industry's most important product," close quote. And I do agree with his sentiments. The bottom line is that when it comes to technology, the safety of air travel still comes first, and we have to be up to the challenge, no matter how complicated the situation may become. So as we deliberate during this conference, let us ensure that the discussion does not simply end up being another talk shop. We have to ensure that we share valuable insights and then, armed with information and strategies, translate these into meaningful actions. This conference provides us with an opportunity to share ideas and possible solutions, and by acting on them, become proactive instead of being reactive to incidents, accidents, and threats. These solutions will invariably contribute to saving lives, assets, and the aviation industry's reputation. Ladies and gentlemen, it may not come as news to you that in South Africa, the general aviation sector is still our greatest cause for concern when it comes to aviation safety. Great airmanship and proactive preparation is vital in all aspects of aviation. Later in the program, accident statistics will be shared with us as they relate to general aviation in the South African context. So we all need to be proactive in terms of our quality systems and act on these cues given by accident trends. General aviation, as you know, lacks the comprehensive safety management systems that the airlines have, and without the checks and balances inherent in such systems, pilots in general aviation need to be extremely diligent in their flight preparations. As part of the Civil Aviation Authority's annual performance plan for 2019-2020 financial year, we will be focusing on developing a comprehensive general aviation strategy, and we shall consult the relevant bodies to provide input on practical ways to manage general aviation sector in our country. I am aware that in some corners the authority is somehow perceived to be killing the general aviation sector. So I believe that this will be a step in the right direction in terms of developing this strategy collectively in order for us to better manage general aviation sector in our country.
A lot of people complain and say, but why is Cape Town getting all of the flights? They're not getting all of the flights, they're just getting quite a few new ones. And what is important for us is to make sure we work with them and make sure the regional distribution is there. Our international tourists do not only want to visit Cape Town, they want to visit other areas. Cape Town is well marketed and is well known. But what is also important, we are seen by a lot of countries as an ultra long haul destination. And for that purpose, they want to visit at least 2 other countries when they come. And this is where SACAA comes in as a role. So it is important for us to have people flying into the country. The hub is important for us. We need to be the first port of entry. It's very important. We will accept anything else, but it is important to have that. And what is further important is to make sure that we collaborate with these airlines. So as South African Tourism, we work with all the airlines that are bringing people to our country. Number one, increasing revenue. Number two, increasing tourism spend. 1 in every 10 tourists, a permanent job is created. And 2 casual jobs are created. We would like to move away from casual jobs and move permanently into permanent jobs. But this is how important the tourism industry is. And we are really willing to work with everybody. I hope that I've given you some insight.
I guess if you look at civil aviation, which is basically just domestic aviation, the emissions, although they look much smaller when you look at the road transport industry, globally there is evidence to show that it is one of the sectors that's going to grow, and we're expected to more than double the emissions profile because of the anticipated increased demand of travel, and especially through tourism. So what is the policy framework for a carbon tax? We're going to impose a tax on basically your direct emissions, so your electricity generation, fuel combustion, your industrial processes when they make cement, iron and steel, and the likes, and then the fugitive emissions when mining, especially when they mine, there's a release of emissions. And we also, in budget 2019, the minister announced that there is going to be a tax on diesel and petrol that's going to become effective in June. And this tax will come in at a marginal rate of 120 rand per ton of CO2 equivalent. And we've committed that we're going to, the revenue from the carbon tax, we're going to use it, we're going to do revenue recycling measures within the economy. And the one thing as a treasury we do is we do not ring fence revenues, because they impose rigidities in terms of our budgeting and our expenditure. If we were to ring fence the carbon tax, and by its design, if it is working, the revenue is supposed to go down over time. And if we've committed that we're only going to use the revenue from the carbon tax for environmental programs, it means over time we'll not be able to fund some of those environmental programs. So as a treasury, we do not ring fence, but we commit to using the revenue for a number of programs that are environmentally focused, and also for that are pro-poor focused, because we're also looking at a just transition. And we're going to have tax-free allowances. In the next slide, I'll explain how that will work. And it's going to be a phased approach where we have the rate starting at a low end, and then over time, depending on, we're committed to the first phase is from 1st June 2019 to 31 December 2022. We're going to do a review of the impact of the carbon tax before we change the design for the next phase.
You may know this, that the Department of Trade and Industry initiated the Centurion Aerospace Village some years back. They ran into some difficulty, but the fact is they are now back on track. And it could again be a stimulus for technical training, especially in the manufacturing domain. Advanced manufacturing, SME incubation, and all the good things that are typically anticipated or expected in that space. That initiative is in the process of moving across from the Department of Trade and Industry to the GGTA, or the Gauteng government, which then will give it a similar flavor to probably the SEZ that you have here in Ekurhuleni, the Roslyn Automotive Park, and there's some others as well. So then it will have the same or a similar status, and it will have a similar opportunity, we hope. What I've taken the liberty to put down there on the right-hand side there is theatre, the QCTO, and also the CAA. Maybe this is the time and the opportunity for us to also really talk about technical training that is not scattered around the country, where people get an opportunity to maybe do a first year, but they never complete their full artisanship. They are actually skilled, but they are never recognized for it. They never have the formal skill. Lots of opportunity for collaboration in that space. BRICS. You know probably all that the aviation sector was added to the BRICS conversation about 2 years ago. From an industry point of view, we are probably not seeing the momentum yet, to be very honest, but it clearly is an opportunity for us to keep pushing energy into that direction and try and make it a success for everybody's benefit. Then I want to talk a little bit, maybe some of the other things, a little bit associated environment. Clearly for us in South Africa to remain isolated from international collaboration at cluster level is a risk. So we as an organization promote very strongly association, at least with European or North American associations, like you would have the European Aerospace Cluster Program, for example, where we have the ability then to access world-class standards, world-class SMME benchmarking and developing tools, etc. So that is one of the key things that Kamasa is promoting. We have to have international approval level throughout the supply chain. Otherwise, we are simply at risk that one or two guys may not make it, and then the rest of us all go belly up. Similarly, on a bilateral side, I know this is a fairly old conversation, but there's also some more recent conversations that is really putting back onto the agenda the urgency of EASA approval, FAA approval, and also CAAC approval eventually under the necessary national or international agreement frameworks, etc. What I can say here is about a month ago we had a very good meeting at DERCO where Department of Transport was in the room, and all the stakeholders was in the room. Everybody seemed to agree that it's a good idea, but we have got to give it some wheels. We have got to give it some legs. And again, it will help us to open up opportunities to bigger manufacturing supply chains, the normal suspects that we all know. But we have to have those agreements, and they have to be truly bilateral.
You know, we find a lot of people that are looking for, I've got a gig. So, for example, the DJs, I've got a gig in the Sun City, but I also want to be in Durban, right? So that's a service that we offer currently. So people are looking for flexibility. People are looking for non-trade type of travel, right? So we've done a lot of those services to people where, especially the DJs, they play in the Sun City, then he wants to be in Durban the next day, Durban the next time, and then obviously the next time he's also going to be in Bloemfontein, and he comes back home by 9 o'clock in Joburg, right? So those are type of the needs that these guys are looking for. In a short time to booking as well. Most guys are looking for convenience, right? They're looking at, cool, I need to be somewhere now for business purposes, right? That the scheduled flights, obviously, they don't offer for those people because they need to get to the next destination. And then from the productivity perspective, it improves as well because these people can actually do more, than previously when they're using the scheduled flights. I'll make an example of the details that we offer the service currently. They now can actually do 3 to 4 gigs a day. And previously, obviously, they couldn't do that because of the using the scheduled flights. So if somebody has to go to Bulwer and they need to do Bloemfontein at the same time, that as well, was impossible. So they're now getting the revenue out of that. And then obviously, I think the most important thing, it's safety. People want to know that they get to the next destination safely, right? So that's another aspect of it. But how you can achieve this, you can achieve this through your activity type of model that we offer currently. I call it like a private flight, but more like air taxi, Uber type of thing. So that's basically what the service can do for you. So if you look at the previous slide that I've shown you, obviously the time that it takes to travel to your destination improves drastically, right? So now you spend more and lesser time because you travel to the closest destination or closest small hub that you can pick up an air taxi and travel to the next destination quicker and do your business and come back. So that's basically you spending lesser time. You know, so even if you're using a scheduled flight, you can still connect via with Uber and get to your next destination quicker. But what is the profile of these people? So mostly it's your business travelers, you know, so, you know, they want to make money, they want to get to the next destination, you get your entertainers, your celebrity, they want privacy, obviously they also want to do more gigs and so forth, right? Government travelers, they want to get to municipality quicker, they want to do service deliveries and so forth, right? Leisure, so you find people, okay, we want to go play golf in Nazca. Can I use your Uber or a taxi type of things, right? It's easier, it's convenient for them, they can fly anytime, anywhere, right? They can plan even if they get drunk as well, you know, so they know that, you know, we'll be able to wait for them, you know, besides using the ship.